Spider-Man 3. I hate this movie.
Come smell.
Oh yeah. That actually tasted really disgusting. This is almond milk. I forgot to buy dairy. Real milk for the skit. I don't even know where to start with Spider-Man 3. I just wrapped up my review of Spider-Man 2. Go watch that. It was a very positive review. I also reviewed the first movie. Very positive. I was really looking forward to watching this movie again. And for context, I had not seen Spider-Man 3 in more than a decade. Easily. More than 10 years. As a kid, I really remember loving this movie, but I never revisited it like I did the first two movies. So, somewhere in my subconscious, even as a kid, I think I knew just what a piece of shit this really was. But hey, it's not all bad, and I want to be fair. So, the point of this video will be to break down what's good and what's bad. This is a transformative film in many ways. This is after Batman Begins and a year before Iron Man and The Dark Knight. In a lot of ways, Spider-Man 3 represents the death of a different era of comic book film. And here we are 16 years later. Apparently, there are a lot of people out there that unironically think this is a great movie. And it is baffling to me. You're allowed to love what you love, okay? But if you think this is objectively a good movie, you're wrong. Let me break down the plot points of Spider-Man 3 for you. There's Peter and his ego, Mary Jane's career, Harry's revenge, Peter and MJ, Sandman and his daughter, Harry's amnesia, the symbiote, Uncle Ben's death retcon, Gwen Stacy's introduction and love triangle, Harry and MJ love triangle, Eddie Brock and the Daily Bugle staff job, Eddie Brock's revenge, Venom, beating women. Did I miss anything? I know I did. This movie's biggest problem is it's overstuffed. It's not that there are too many villains. I've heard that excuse used time and time again. There's too much of everything in this movie and no cohesion between any of it. Spider-Man 2 was built up from its themes. Spider-Man 3 is brought down by its expectations. Expectations to raise the visual spectacle. Expectations to include Venom. Expectations to pay off set-up subplots. Expectations to be a good movie. Did I stutter? A big part of this movie is Peter's ego and the collateral damage that comes with it. He alienates MJ and uses the symbiote to enhance this newfound addiction he has to himself after Spider-Man 2. It's an interesting plot point, but it's resolved by Peter bitch-slapping MJ. Yeah, that happens in this movie, and then he decides, oh yeah, maybe the black suit should go. The theme of forgiveness is sort of brought up a few times in this movie, but its payoff, its arc, is nowhere near as satisfying as the themes of choice and responsibility were in Spider-Man 2. By the end of this film, yes, Peter forgives Sandman, forgives himself by extension, but it's nowhere near as powerful because it's not built into the plot. There's Mary Jane and her career, a reversal from the previous film and another great idea. I actually really like this subplot, but again, it is not resolved and there is no arc. Mary Jane's career goes down the toilet, she becomes a waitress, gets slapped around, and that's it. Harry's revenge. So Harry gets on the juice.
Oh, busted. Little cookie on the way to the gym.
Tries to kill Peter unsuccessfully. And wakes up with amnesia. It's very convenient. After this, Peter carries on like nothing happened. Peter is a jerk in this movie, and I'll get to that. Eventually, Harry kisses MJ, she runs away, and his memories come flooding back.
You've taken your eye off the ball.
He fights Peter again. And then after some terribly timed information from the Osborn butler,
the blade that pierced his body came from his gilder.
Harry comes back to save the day and dies. Harry wasn't redeemed in the same way Doc Ock was. Harry is just the victim of Peter's lies, of his butler's lies. Harry's a victim all the way up until his death. He is beaten up by his best friend and comes back to die for him. Harry was already redeemed as such. His character arc falters and is not satisfying. Love triangles. They're literally the worst plot points ever. Don't do them. They work for TV shows aimed at young females. That's about it. We don't learn a thing about Gwen Stacy, and ultimately she's just a plot device. Harry and MJ happens as quick as it goes away. It's just weird and unnecessary. And the symbiote. I swear there is so much potential in a symbiote storyline that has not been fulfilled on screen yet. It's incredible. I really think Peter needs to be infected for a longer period of time and do more bad things. Peter can't just do a couple bad things, yell at people, want to kill someone, and go, "Oh, get it off me." That's weak. Let's get edgy. Make Peter do some really bad things. But obviously, anyone that's watching this video probably already knows about the production issues of Spider-Man 3, and know that Venom was never meant to be a part of this movie. And that explains why everything to do with Venom sucks. Ultimately, the plot of this film is aimless. It has no momentum. It's a bunch of scenes that just happen. You could splice out scenes, put them in different orders all across this film, and it really would not affect the flow. There is no flow. Sandman, the man who killed Uncle Ben, happens to fall into a pit that causes him to get powers. That's it. The symbiote lands next to Peter. Because it does. Harry gets amnesia, so he can be good for a while, and Sandman can take center stage. Sandman gets offed temporarily, so Harry can come back as the villain. None of these plot lines are interlinked. None of these plot lines have a thematic through line. There is no endgame. There is no drive towards a bigger picture. Venom shows up 30 minutes before the credits to give us our big action scene at the end. If that had not happened, the movie would have already been done. Sandman would have just continued to try and help his daughter, which is no escalation in personal or physical stakes from earlier in the film, and Harry and Peter would have most likely never spoken again, which is the same as Harry being dead. The only thing the climax achieves is reuniting Peter and MJ, tying loosely into the theme the movie tries to present of forgiveness, but it's far weaker than the previous two films in their resolutions. Peter sucks in this film. He's annoying, snobby, pretentious. He's just the worst. And before you say, "Oh, but that's his character arc," no, this is too much. Compared to the last movie, where he was extraordinarily relatable, here, he's unbearable. Almost all the way through. Peter always has this dumb look on his face. There's a real sense in this movie that Tobey Maguire didn't want to be there. The best acting he does is when he's playing Bully Maguire. Like he knows what schlock he's in, and he's just playing up the worst parts of it. And I don't want to body shame here, but Peter's looking thick in this movie. His face is fatter, and he obviously wasn't putting in the work like the other two films. And I get it, it would be tough to stay in that shape for that long. But when you take on a role like this, there is a responsibility to be in shape. Responsibility, ha ha ha! And think about this. This movie takes place 3 years after the first movie, canonically. Peter is in college. Peter is 21 in this movie, and he looks 40. Somehow Tobey looked better in No Way Home, almost 15 years after the fact. Peter's arc in this film is apparently about forgiveness and being the man MJ deserves. It could be good, but it's executed very terribly. And the symbiote just makes things worse. It just shows up, He just accepts it, doesn't question it, whatever, fine, I'll take it on. And it confuses me. Like, it's just a physical suit. He keeps Venom in a chest, but then has such a hard time unbinding with it at the end of the movie. That always made no sense to me. Like, it's meant to be like this biological organism that's just on him. Sam Raimi really didn't understand Venom.
Hello? MJ? What do you want? No, I haven't found out anything. Don't call back!
The most memorable part of this movie is when Peter is doing his little street dance. We've seen the memes, Bully Maguire. Oh my goodness, what a treasure. But people actually make fun of this scene, and in reality, this is probably the best scene in the movie, and fits completely in this universe, in my opinion. Peter had a goofy walk in the second movie. He has another goofy walk down the street here. It works, and I really like this scene. It's really, really well put together. You know, Peter's a jerk in this movie. He hurts Harry physically and emotionally.
Gonna cry?
He also hurts MJ physically and emotionally. Peter is essentially the villain of this movie, and actually would be a very cool idea. To have this dual crisis of identities could have really worked. However, this movie's tone is far too goofy to even remotely touch on that subject. Peter learns to forgive Sandman, and by extension himself, by the end of the movie, and that's it. Peter sucks here. He sucks. I've touched on Harry a little bit, but let's go into it more. Such a waste. One of the most compelling characters going into this film, obviously set up from the start to become a big bad in this franchise. And he's just regulated to side character. His costume is lame, and his motivation regresses here. Peter stayed true to Norman's plea for him to never tell Harry what he was. But after a certain point, you gotta think, why wouldn't Peter just tell Harry the truth? A simple conversation would have fixed everything. The amnesia plotline sucks, and I gotta admit, James Franco's acting in this movie is just odd.
Got here as fast as I could.
I know that face.
Harry was never so childlike and innocent. So it's like he's reverted back to being a child. In the other movies, Harry was a pretty serious guy.
Strawberries.
Oh, and how's this scene? This is the dumbest scene in the movie, and that's saying something.
How's the pie?
So good.
You ready? You ready? Watch. Harry is now Doctor Strange. Harry has weak character development in this movie, but he does get a strong ending. Dying by the blade of his own glider, like his father, is poetic. Not trying to kill Peter, but save him. The theme of forgiveness is in here too. Harry forgives Peter and helps him, and through forgiveness finds peace. I always remember liking Sandman as a character, but on my rewatch, he's really not in this movie much at all. Like, at all. He has great motivation. I like that. I hate retconning Uncle Ben's death, making him the killer. They try to tie this into Peter's quest for forgiveness, but it feels very contrived to me. I think Sandman's powers do not fit in this universe. These films have felt somewhat serious and grounded in their own way up to this point. A big, dumb-sounding Sandman stomping all over the place just feels out of place. But again, like Harry, Sandman shows up when he's needed and disappears when he's not needed. He interrupts the key ceremony for an action scene. Then he's killed. He's recruited by Venom, then he's forgiven and flies away. I love the conversation Sandman has with Peter in the climax. It's well done, and you can tell this is the film Raimi wanted to make. However, it's only a small diamond in the rough. I like Venom as a character. My first introduction to Venom was this guy.
Hey, Spidey, can you get us Captain America's autograph?
Oh, brother.
I love the Venom movies, unironically.
Fuck this guy!
I love Venom in the 90s animated show. But this guy sucks! This Venom has been criticized by everyone. And honestly, I have nothing new to add to this conversation. Topher Grace was miscast. Venom's design and voice feels wrong, and rushing him into the film with less than 20 minutes of screen time is really an insult to one of Spider-Man's most popular villains. My take on Venom is, he should be like the Joker is to Batman, but to Spider-Man. He's a goofball, he can be funny, but he has a plan. And do not fuck with him or he will get you. I love his portrayal in that PlayStation 1 game, and I love Tom Hardy's portrayal. It's fun, but this guy is dangerous. He is a big, dumb, lovable fool that makes Peter's life hard through chaos. This is the character. He's a very different villain to other Spider-Man villains who are all just goons and bank robbers and scientists gone wrong. Venom is an alien and he just comes into this world, and I really think he should just be the opposite of Spider-Man in every way, but outright making Venom an intimidating villain. I don't love and never have. Somehow in this movie, the goofiest movie in the franchise, Venom didn't have a single goofy thing to do. It's really disappointing to me. I need to talk specifically about the action. Spider-Man 2 has some of the most incredible action scenes in a comic book film. Here though, not quite. Harry vs. Peter #1. This scene is really bad for a few reasons. Yes, the franchise was leading up to this, but it comes out of nowhere. Harry sort of just plucks Peter off the street, and then they have this aerial battle. There's a bit of yelling at each other. The CGI is awful. James Franco on that stupid glider just looks like he's on a green screen doing some dodges. It's really bad. And then the way this is resolved is Peter clotheslines Harry. That's really out of character, I feel like. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, clotheslining his best friend. It's like he was out to hurt him from the start. And I hate that. But it adds nothing new. It's in the dark. As I said, bad CGI. It's all just a bit of a mess. It's visual mess. It doesn't feel exciting, and it brings nothing new to Spider-Man. There's Spidey vs. Sandman #1. This is after the key ceremony when the Sandman's robbing that armored truck. This is okay. There's a lot of similar things happening here to the train sequence at the end of Spider-Man 2, but it works. It's a good introduction to Sandman's full capabilities now as Sandman, and reminds Peter that, hey, I need to humble myself a bit. There's a new guy on the block. But I will just say, I hate Tobey Maguire quipping. He's just not good at it.
Leave now.
I guess you haven't heard. I'm the sheriff around these parts.
Okay.
And ultimately, I just find there's nothing truly memorable about this scene. It serves its purpose, but it's forgettable. Now there's Spidey vs. Sandman #2. This is the best scene, action sequence in the film, in my opinion. It's raw, full of emotion, and is the first time in the film you feel interested in Peter as a character, since he seemingly just killed Sandman and is happy about it. The whole lead up is great. He's just got the black suit, he's trying to find the man that killed Uncle Ben. Great setup. Execution, there's a bit of an exchange of words, really rises the tension, putting Sandman's face into the train. The sound effects in this film are fantastic. And they always have been in this franchise, but really here it's great. Spider-Man is presented as absolutely brutal in the black suit. It's really compelling. And then Spider-Man kills Sandman by washing him away down a drainage pipe, whatever, and he says, good riddance, he's happy. This is a great scene. I love this action scene. And like I was trying to get to with the last two action scenes, unlike them, this brings something new to Spider-Man, to this franchise. A dark, edgy, different take. A killer Spider-Man. And then Harry vs. Peter #2 in the apartment. I think this is a great scene too. In contrast to their first fight, this one takes place where the conflict began all those years ago and is a nice contrast from the over-the-top big set piece at the start of the film. It's intimate, well choreographed, the sound design is great yet again. I just wish Harry presented a bigger threat, was more imposing as a villain. Why can Norman Osborn nearly kill Peter, Spider-Man, in the first film, but Harry is just like a thug to Peter? And I know Peter's got better as Spider-Man, but I just think it's a missed opportunity to really make Harry more imposing. And then there's the final battle, which I pretty much hate the entirety of this final battle. Sandman is a weird character. Like I said earlier, his powers do not fit in this universe, and he really just becomes a big, dumb thug at the end. A far cry from the emotional stakes and personal battle with Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. There's some interesting horror elements with Venom included here. Only a small amount, but I like that. Peter and Harry teaming up was cool. That felt satisfying, even if it was somewhat undercooked. And I like Harry's sacrifice as an idea, even though, as I mentioned, the story did not fulfill the potential here. There's not much more I need to say about this final battle. It's very generic. There's a lot of CGI faces running around. It's lame. It's really lame, and the extras drive me insane in this scene.
It's hard to believe what's happening. The brutality of it. I don't know how we can take any more.
The comedy. We can break this down into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Anything to do with Bully Maguire is fantastic and unironically funny. Same can be said for J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons is such a highlight. Every time he's on screen, it is brilliant. The bad. Any other jokes made by other characters. It's just all lame. And Spider-Man's quips suck. And the ugly. Did I say everything to do with Bully Maguire was funny? Because I lied. This jazz scene, I get secondhand embarrassment from this jazz scene.
Find us some shade. Thanks, Outmakes.
I physically shudder at every line Bully Maguire says during this whole sequence.
Now dig on this.
This film is somehow the funniest in the franchise, whilst also being the least funny. It's quite the paradox. So what can I defend about this movie? There's a few things, and I'll start with Mary Jane. Unlike the last two films, I didn't mind Mary Jane in this film. I thought Kirsten Dunst really delivered a good performance here. Very subtle, natural, I liked her a lot. Mary Jane is going through quite a lot in this film. It's a reversal from Peter in Spider-Man 2. She was probably the most engrossing character in the film, but there is no resolve, no arc. By the end of the film, she's a plot device yet again to be captured and rescued. Call me a feminist, but I hate this shit. Sandman and the theme of forgiveness, there isn't much there, but when it shows up, it's really great. I love the conversation Sandman and Peter have at the end of the film. It's really poignant, really, really lovely. Thomas Hayden Church really has a good performance here. You feel for Sandman the entire time. I think Sandman, in power and ability, is a dumb character. I think his origin is dumb, but the performance is good. And I like the concept of the battle within Peter. This should have been the movie. Over the course of the entire movie. It shouldn't have been brought up when he puts on the suit, beats women, and then takes it off. It shouldn't have been that quick. It should have been the entire movie. That could have worked. Are there any characters I can defend? Well, yes, like I said. I like Mary Jane in this film. J. Jonah Jameson is great. I like Harry, even though he's not used properly. Flint Marko, as I said, is a good character. Gwen Stacy, she's in this movie. Did you know that? Do you remember that? Neither do I. And I just watched the fucking movie. But she's hopeless. She's got nothing to do here. And are there any moments I can defend in this movie? Taken out of context, genuinely great moments. Yes, whilst I hate what the scene stands for, and Peter's cringy lines, the jazz scene is actually really well done, and Peter hitting MJ is quite a powerful character moment. It's very dark and a very heavy subject matter, but I like it. It's ballsy that a comic book film, probably considered to be aimed at kids, would do this. I think the score is defendable. It's not great. I feel like I can tell Danny Elfman didn't score this. There's something missing about the score, but the Black Suit Spider-Man theme is iconic. Sandman's theme is actually pretty good, and it fits the movie well. Sandman's birth, that scene, everybody's talked about that. It works well as its own little thing. You get a range of emotions, the CGI still holds up. It's great, and that's it. That's all I can defend about this movie. That's about it. Oh, I forgot to mention Aunt May. Oh no, I didn't, because the writers forgot Aunt May as well. Aunt May has nothing to do in this movie, and when she shows up, she's boring and annoying. It's a waste. In conclusion, Spider-Man 3 is a perfect failure because it has a legacy that will never go away. Spider-Man 3 will forever be one of the most memeable, hilarious movies ever made. I dare say that Spider-Man 3 will probably be remembered for longer than its two prequels, which kind of saddens me in a way. The movie is a legendary mix of the worst and best aspects of Hollywood. It is endlessly funny and endlessly frustrating. It's amazing how with a little more care, time, and restraint, we would have gotten a different movie. Spider-Man 3 made a lot of money at the box office, but it failed to garner a sequel, and this is where the franchise ended. It is, by all accounts, a failure, but one that has earned a new life through a new generation. And while I cannot defend this film, it makes me happy to see there are people out there who get something out of it, even if it is just a laugh. And that is exactly why Spider-Man 3 is a perfect failure.